Well, good afternoon. I'm Elaine May Stem, a 30-year Marine Corps veteran. Today we have with us, on 21 May 2016, in Westminster, Maryland, Mr. Gary Livengood. Welcome, Mr. Livengood.
Thank you.
I read where you are a U.S. Army veteran who served in Vietnam between 1966 and 1968. Were you a journalist during this time? Because I read that.
Yes, ma'am. I was a journalist at 2 Field Force, Vietnam, with the 16th PID.
And where were you born, sir?
I was born literally in a farmhouse in Cuzzard, West Virginia, June 1st, 1943.
Okay. And did you grow up as a child in that area and then left?
Now, I've lived a very nomadic lifestyle. My father was a railroader, and as such, we moved often. By the time I was 18 years of age, I had physically lived in 21 different houses, and that was as a result of railroad transfers. So was raised all over West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland. Predominantly in those areas.
So also your parents grew up in that area of West Virginia?
My mother was raised in Garrett County, Maryland, and my father was in West Virginia.
How many siblings did you have, and did any of them pursue the military career?
I have 2 brothers and a sister. None served in the military. One of my brothers is deceased. I'm the oldest. The living brother is retired as a partner from Ernst & Young. And my sister is a college graduate and continues to work in the public school systems in Virginia.
Since you were during that time period of Vietnam, did you enlist or were you drafted?
You know, it was kind of either or. I was attending college in Montgomery, West Virginia, West Virginia Institute of Technology. I transferred from a church school in Indiana, and as a result of transfers, you lose some hours that are not accepted at the incoming college. At the end of 4 years, I was 9 hours short, credit hours short of getting my degree. I received a welcome letter from Uncle Sam, and so I went to the draft board and said, could I please just finish these 9 hours and then do with me what you will? This was during the buildup in Vietnam, and they said, no, you're going in. So at that time, I decided if I get drafted, I'm probably going to go in this 11B-20, which is infantryman. If I enlist, I might actually get a chance to do something that's going to be helpful to me. So I enlisted, 3-year enlistment.
And that was probably a good move. And did you choose the Army or the Army choose you?
Oh, well, since the draft notice was from the Army, I chose the Army.
You chose them. And where did you go for training?
Went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, spent a few days there, and then went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for my basic. After the basic, went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for the AIT. And from there, went to Fort Riley, Kansas, where the 9th Infantry Division was building up, and I had gone to a transportation company. From there, I saw where Fort Ben Harrison was offering a journalism school, and I was accepted, went to journalism school. Upon completion there, returned to Fort Riley. Shortly thereafter, received my orders for Vietnam.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you, what you specialized in. So I'm assuming that you specialized in journalism.
That's
and
correct.
You went to Vietnam. Got it. and you liked that field. You thought that was an interesting field to get into. You did interesting things.
It was, it gave me a much broader outlook on everything that was going on within that corps at that point in time.
How do you feel that you adapted to the military life when you left that civilian life?
Reasonably well. I'm a very flexible person. And I was raised in an era where you do what you're told by authority, etc. And my government had said, we need you. And I said, well, okay, I'll do what I need to do.
Can you recall where you were serving in Vietnam?
Oh, yes. 2 Field Force, Vietnam, in 3rd Corps. About 3 or 4 miles from Bien Hoa and about 20 miles from Saigon. That was base camp.
Now, what are some of the memories that stand out that was an experience?
Ooh. I arrived in Vietnam, went to the 90th Replacement Company. From there, you're dispatched to whatever unit that you're going to. They assigned me to the 5th or the 2nd Mechanized Artillery. And I was there for a few weeks when they decided, no, wait a minute, he knows the difference between a noun, a pronoun, an adverb. And they transferred me to the 16th Public Information Detachment at 2 Field Force.
And that was your duty?
And that's where my journalistic duties began.
Right. Did you see combat while you were there?
Yes, ma'am. I unfortunately got to enjoy the Tet Offensive while I was there.
Did that experience have an impact on your life?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Things that you saw, destruction, things of that nature.
Yeah, and humorous things, too. Because I do remember when we first came on fire the night of Tet. And, of course, well, there had been some action. I had been in the barracks, or the hooch, came out and saw a chopper laying down fire in the distance, and thought, well, this will be something to, and I just figured it was a mortar site. This would be something to communicate to my wife. And at the time, we did it by the way of video, or not video, audio cassettes. So have my gear on, sitting on a platform there at the hooch, describing what I see, the chopper laying down fire in the distance, etc. All at once, tracers all which way through the compound, 122 mics coming in. And I still have this recording, by the way, where I yell, holy something or other, throw the recorder. At that time, I was Staff E5, so I was in charge of the platoon. Got the platoon together, went toward the command bunker so that we could see, all right, where do you want us to go? And I still have this very, very vivid recollection of I'm hugging old terra firma, and a bullet goes overhead. And my thought was, gee, that sounds just like it does in the movies. Now, what a silly thought to have at that point in time, but that's the one I had. Then we ended up on the front perimeter, and 3 days later come off the front perimeter.
Well, of course, we all have those friendships that we meet, and someone do you keep in contact with and remember more than somebody else?
The closest that I come to is a gentleman by the name of Ron Paglia, and he and I became friends while we were in Nam. And I kind of remember we were out in the field, and we came under fire, and we got on choppers, different choppers. Mine went one way back to base camp, his went another way. And 2 days later, we still haven't heard from Ron. And then finally, they were questioning whether or not they should be listing him as missing in action or whatever. But we finally got him back. Subsequently, I've met him a couple times or visited with him a couple times. He's out in Phoenix, Arizona now. And so we get to relive some of the stories and all that. But he's really the only one that I've maintained contact with.
Well, that's good. Were you able to stay in touch with your family and friends back home?
Yes. APO, letters, and as I had said earlier, the audio recordings.
When you had time off, what did you do? If there was any time off.
There really wasn't too many
Right.
places to go. You were on base. Now, since this was a Corps headquarters, they did have NCO clubs, officers clubs, etc.
Right.
And sometimes some entertainment would come in, music entertainment type of thing. Benoit Air Base was close enough. That was only about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away, that we could go there at the Air Force facility. But that would be it, except if you got some time off to go to Vung Tau. And in Vung Tau, that is like a resort area where you could swim, etc. Now, at the same time, you knew that some of these guys that you were swimming with were Charlie. And Charlie knew that they were you. But this was a no fire zone. And then you went back to doing what you were doing.
Right. When you returned home, did you come back or did you get transferred somewhere else when your time was up, your tour was up?
No, when my tour was up, well, my colonel was trying to entice me to stay in the military. And explaining all the advantages of staying in the armed services, and wanted me to go to OCS, because by that time I was a staff E6. But I had said to the Colonel, you know as well as I do, I'll go back, I'll go to OCS, I'll get my second lieutenant commission, I'll get 30 days leave, and then my young rear end will be right back here, because this was 1968. And I said, with all due respect, I'll take my 6 cents a mile and go home.
So you came home.
Yes, I did.
How were you received by the community when you returned?
You know, you read and see a lot about how soldiers were mistreated when they came home. That didn't occur to me. I flew out of San Francisco back to Cleveland, Ohio. I was in full uniform and never had a problem.
That's a good thing. Do you feel the adjustment of coming home and readjusting to civilian life was difficult for you?
A little bit. Because the one thing that Vietnam did for me was it helped me gain a lot of confidence in myself. You're going to find out real quick what you can do under fire. I gained certain confidence. I came back. I had much more confidence in myself. And just was making decisions to, I'm going to go back to school. The curriculum had changed, so I was going to have to go an extra 1.5 years instead of just picking up the 9 hours that I was short, and made that adjustment. But you still have the flashbacks, and you still have, I'm in bed early one morning, and the garbage men come, and we had metal garbage cans outside. And of course, they throw them, whatnot. Well, my immediate reaction was I rolled out of bed, I'm on the floor. The wife is looking down at me about, what's wrong? I thought it was incoming. Little things like that. But no, it gave me a much greater sense of worth, of command of myself. So the experience, even though I necessarily wouldn't want to go through that experience again, was very worthwhile in my case.
What did you do after the service life, after you got out?
Returned to school, received my degree in English, did student teaching, which I thoroughly enjoyed at the junior high level. Saw that teaching wasn't going to pay me very much. So I sold my soul to the corporate communities and joined the CSX Railroad, where I became a claims agent, and then grew within that organization, investigating personal injuries under the railroad. The employees fall under the Federal Employers Liability Act, not like workers' comp. And so there is contributory negligence. So you're investigating as to the cause and who was actually responsible for this. Investigated derailments, crossing accidents, those type of things. Got the opportunity then to move on to Amtrak, to where I became the director of claim services out of Chicago. And I had offices. I was director of claim services and offices from the western coast of Pennsylvania to the Pacific Ocean. Subsequent to that, joined an investigative services firm, vice president of operations from the Carolinas up to Boston. That company ran into trouble. I ended up in the health maintenance organization arena, spent 13 years there, ultimately becoming the vice president of operations for Mid-Atlantic Medical Services. And then our company was acquired by United Healthcare and spent a year with them, but as occurs with all acquirements, positions are lost. And so here's some money, go away. And that's what happened.
Well, it seems like you achieved a lot. So, since you said you haven't really kept in touch with any of your fellow veterans, did you join any military veterans organizations to keep that camaraderie, the affiliation?
Yes, I have. The VFW in Frederick, Maryland, and Post 11 in the American Legion in Post 11. So I'm currently members there.
Okay. Do you feel your wartime and your service experience affected your life?
Absolutely. It, as I had said earlier, it gave me much more confidence in myself, in my abilities, as to what I could do, and I think it guided me through the various opportunities that I was able to take advantage of over time. I don't know necessarily without that experience, because, in that experience, you find out real quick what you're made of, and how are you going to react when you come under fire. And you learn that there's a survivor element and there's a trust element in whoever's got your back, and you got somebody else's back. So not only what can you accomplish in your own right, but realizing that it takes other people. So yes, it had a very significant impact.
Have you registered to the VA as a veteran? You are authorized to get benefits. Have you registered in the VA?
I have. And I have a 10% disability as a result of exposure to Agent Orange. I was on positions, jobs, while in Nam, where the ranch hands were spraying Agent Orange. We knew nothing as to what's this stuff coming out of the sky and dropping down on us. And, you know, unfortunately, of course, they were trying to defoliage, because Nam is vastly jungle, and trying to clear it out so you could see where Charlie was.
You told me you have learned a lot of from your experiences, and you've got a lot out of your military career. Do you think the military today, in general, is where it should be?
No. Now that's a short answer, isn't it? We need to be stronger than what we currently are. I understand at this point in time, we are about 40% less force-wise than what we were in the World War II era. That's not going to work. There is a huge deterrence level if you are the strongest kid on the block. And I don't know that the direction that we're headed is the appropriate direction to head.
And I agree with you, sir. A strong defense is having a strong military.
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely. In closing, is there anything you would like to add to the interview that you would like to say?
I saw that as a journalist in Vietnam, I got the opportunity to experience a lot of things that I would not have been had I a regular position, such as a grunt or something like that. I got to participate in the arrival of the 101st Airborne. I got to go on patrol with Colonel Lai Tong Ba and his RFPF forces. I got to go on to the USS Nicholas, a destroyer, who's firing H&I fire. And one thing I learned about that is in the Navy, if you're a guest on a ship, you go to the head of the chow line, which is great. Now, I carried with me an over and under, M16 and 79 under. And the Navy personnel didn't have those kinds of weapons. So several of the officers would say, Sarge, can we fire these? And they throw trash off the side and fire them. And that was good. They got to experience that. I got to visit the first Marine base, South Marine base. While there, went on a mission, RFPFs on the top of the mountain, Charlie on the bottom of the mountain. Came to be nightfall, and I had a decision to make. Do I stay here with 200 RFPFs, knowing that Charlie owns the bottom, or do I get back to the Marine base camp? I went back to the Marine base camp. Of course, we got hit. And Charlie had set up a 40 millimeter at the base of a mountain. He came through a South Vietnamese training center. He's on the wire throwing. Bad decision, but there were several incidents like that. I got to interview a Charlie Brown down in a local village. He's there with the civilian population, or U.S. civilian enterprise, building bridges, etc. There were many things that I got to do that, while on the USS Nicholas, I noticed that there was a strange-looking helicopterish type of thing there, and it turned out to be a drone, one of the very, very early configurations of a drone. And so I wrote a story on it. Naturally, it was censored and never made it anywhere, but I had many of my articles published in the Stars and Stripes, in the Hurricane magazine at 2 Field Force, and several articles stateside. And then it provided me with the opportunity when I went back to school. I got a position in the Public Information Department, writing for the school, and had a radio program for WVIT News every day. So it gave me that confidence and those opportunities to do those things.
Very nice. Is there any message you would like to leave for anyone watching this interview at this time?
Well, for future generations, military presence, military force is inevitable and absolutely necessary. Please give consideration to serving your country in the armed forces of the United States. I subscribe to the notion that every able-bodied person ought to serve a fixed period of time in the military, not necessarily combat, but after you get out of high school, you're 18 years of age, and let's say 18 to 20 or 18 to 20, whatever the time frame would be, provide that service to your company. And that service is going to provide you with a lot of self-esteem, a lot of other kinds of intricacies and qualities that you're not going to gain otherwise.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come today and talking with us.
Thank you.
Very much.